Hey cats, I know that the title of this video may kind of seem like I'm selling you a bill of goods. Like I have some magic potion, traveling through town selling my magic wares, magic beans. But the truth is, this concept isn't something that really was taught to me early on and not something that I observed until later on in my professional listening and playing life. Let's take a look now at this concept that I call the Great Eight. Welcome to Learn Jazz Bass with Matt Rybicki. Subscribe, like, free PDF below, you know the deal. So today we're talking about the Great Eight. And what this is a concept where we think about our walking bass line as being in 2-measure phrases or 8 quarter notes. It sounds simple, and it is, but you'll notice as you listen and analyze lots of bass lines that many great players do this. It's just sort of a natural musical tendency. And when you start to do it yourself or try to do it, you'll find that your lines will have more maturity, be more cognizant, more cogent, more confident, and so on. It sounds smoother and logical. So let's take a look at some examples of how to do this. The first thing I want to note though is that there are differences when we have long strings of one note, like on a modal tune or perhaps a minor blues where we've got multiple measures of one chord. That's an easy way to sort of apply this. What's a little trickier is when you have 2 chords per bar or the chord changing every bar. Nonetheless, if we can try and make our lines go through the second measure, it's going to sound really hip. Check it out. For our first example, we're looking at Paul Chambers' line on I'll Remember April. If you're not familiar with the chords to the song, it has 4 measures of G major, some kind of G major chord, G major 6, G major 7. And this is the thing I was just talking about. Here's a long string of one chord that, keep in mind, it's an obvious thing, but keep in mind, technically, the sound of G major is happening on every single different chord, every single different bar. And Paul has some lines that are very logical in 2-measure phrases, like we're talking about. So here's the first thing he plays. G major 7, he plays. Now he does play G natural on the downbeat of bar 2, which is kind of the standard thing we do. But to me, it doesn't sound like he's trying to get there unnaturally. It gets there very naturally. And notice in the next 2 bars, it's a new idea, and he doesn't play the root in the second measure of these 8, the Great Eight. So he plays. Very logical line to me. He's getting to B flat on the G minor chord. We have 4 measures of G minor now. So he's playing the flat 3 on the downbeat. Totally cool, strong chord tone, no problem. Here again, a Great Eight phrase. This F that he plays here may be an F sharp. I'm not totally positive. The F sharp is in the key signature, but I'm pretty sure he's just sort of thinking G minor 7, not, G minor major 7 or something. So seems logical, and again, a complete phrase. Continuing on from there, another 2 measures of G minor, he plays. Very cool. That E flat is on A minor, by the way, which is crazy. Nonetheless, playing all these 8 bars together, it sounds like. I hope that you heard me emphasizing the downbeat of, every other bar. Do you hear what I'm talking about? I hope that you do. Now check out what he does when the chords change every bar. Here, a little later in this chorus, as is the form of the song, there's a 2-5 to B flat major. So we've got C minor 7, F7 for one, C minor 7 for one bar, F7 for one bar, B flat major 7 is where it's going. And he plays So he starts on the 5 of C. He starts on G natural. Finds his way there. It's like you wouldn't think to play that, again, if you were sitting down like by yourself at your desk trying to figure out a line that's going to make sense. This wouldn't be the first thing you thought of. But it totally is great. Continuing on from that B flat major, he gets to the C, it's a 2-5 again, so he gets to the downbeat, the C natural on C minor. He finds his way there in an elegant way that is part of this big phrase. I'll play this 2 measures again. And the same idea here, another 2-5, and listen to this classic cliche walk-up line. Perfect, we've all heard it a million times. We've seen videos about it. Props to all the other guys doing bass videos. I love y'all. It works, it's a cliche, it sounds good. It's a cliche because it sounds good. You can use it, go ahead. So he plays. B flat is the downbeat. It's the root of B flat major 7, all good. Another interesting phrase here, he may also have changed the fingering here, I'm not sure, because the next thing he plays is B flat and then D. He could have jumped from this B flat to this D, totally possible, but he continues up a little bit, so I'm not sure exactly how he fingered this. Nonetheless, this phrase goes, that E natural is part of the next chord, which is A minor 7. It's the 5 of A minor 7. I'll play this great 8 again. Totally cool, very slick, very clever, and a complete idea. Let's look now at another bass player's grade 8. So here's Butch Warren on Out of the Night from the Joe Henderson album, page 1, and this is a minor blues. And on this minor blues and on many minor blueses, we have one chord lasting for 4 measures. This is an F minor, so an F minor blues, and for this F minor goes for 4 bars. So he plays, again, another cliche, which is, we've all heard it. Again, totally cool to use. Whenever you need to do it, do it. It's all good. It works. So he arrives at that C on the F minor 7, the 5 of F minor 7. It's a little bit interesting here what he does, the notes that he plays. He plays C, G, E flat, C, again. So to me, I'm kind of wondering, is he sort of thinking C7 there, like the 5 of F minor? Is he implying something that sort of steps out and reconnects to that F minor 7? So the whole 8 measures together. It's like inevitable it's going to get to that 4 chord, to B flat, isn't it? It just sounds like this is exactly what's supposed to happen. Whether or not he intended that C7 isn't really so important, but I think that what does help is to, again, think of those 4 bars together, these two 8 note sections together. It's all leading to that 4 in a super logical way. Another logical thing that he does just in the next, or the 2 courses after, same thing on the beginning 4 measures of the blues. It's all F minor. And he plays this cliche again, this C thing again. Slight differences, but still the same idea. It's a whole big idea that's going to the 4 chord. And from there on, the other ideas go to the other chords logically. So think big is the point of it. Butch Warren, amazing bass player. Let's check out another one. Here's Ray Brown on Moten Swing. And the chords to this song, at least this version of the song, it's an F major. It's F major for 2 beats, B flat 7 for 2 beats, and then a 2-5 to G7 actually. So A minor 7 for 2 beats, D7 for 2 beats. 1, which is a pretty sound. It's a chord progression we're used to. It's great. It does, however, the root movement is sort of up and down, isn't it? I mean, it has a little bit of a movement to it. But what Ray does is sort of interlace these quarter notes through that up and down movement to make a straight line, an ascending straight line. He plays. Instead of like, it's cool, that's cool too, but it's so hip that this whole thing is one idea that is going to the G7. He plays G on the downbeat on G7. A little later on in this 8 measures of the form, we have again an F major chord, and then it's a 2-5 back to F major. So he plays F down the downbeat, and then a G, and then a B natural, which may have been a mistake. He may have been going for the C, or it could have been that he wanted to hear, or the Oscar Peterson was playing the sharp 11. I don't exactly remember what's happening here as far as what Oscar's doing. Nonetheless, one aspect is that he needed to sort of, I think, turn around here. I mean, he could go higher in thumb position, but I think he wanted to turn around, partially because he does go back down. And so this B natural is sort of a pivot that it goes up and then turns back around. However, the whole thing is still one idea. It's I was a little out of tune. I'm gonna do it again. Pretty cool. It's actually what he plays there. So this is another thing of like, find your way through some difficult spots and you will reap the rewards of it sounding cool. And to that end, in the bridge of Moten Swing, it goes to A major, it changes keys to A major, modulates to A major. And the basic chords for the first part of the bridge are 1, 6, 2, 5 in A major. So A major 7, F sharp minor 7, B minor 7, E7. He plays, as is on the screen here, of course, we have that strong pull from the E to the A, 5, 1, like that. A very common thing for lots of great bass players to do, and you can certainly do too. Play whatever the fifth of the upcoming chord is on beat 4 of preceding that chord, strong movement. It's neat that in the second part of this, he is sort of doing away with the B minor 7, the 2 there, which is totally fine. We can oftentimes think of a 2-5 as a whole measure of the 5. The 2 is just sort of an ornament to the 5 and allows for some different colors, but you can sort of disregard it temporarily. And I think that's what he's doing here based on the context of where he's coming from. He's playing F sharp and then F natural, right? So the next logical thing to play, if you're going chromatically, would be E. Totally cool, and that also works on a B minor 7 chord too, but the fact that he sort of continues the sound of E7 totally makes me think, all right, he's just thinking E7, let me get back to A. And the whole idea together is a grade 8. And then the next 2 measures, another grade 8. And it's also 1, 6, 2, 5. This F sharp here is an F sharp 7, so that's why we're playing A sharp, or enharmonically B flat. I'll play these 2 measures again. Totally makes sense, totally logical. Again, almost a cliche way to get through a 1, 6, 2, 5, but it works so well because it is so musical and because it is a broader phrase. He's not trying to hit every single downbeat precisely all the time. Like, although again, that works. A, F sharp, B, E, it works, but you don't need to do that. It's a little more mature to continue broader ideas as we're talking about. Let's check out another bass line with a grade 8. Here's Sam Jones on a blues in D flat called S.K.J, and it is a wonderful performance. It's D flat, so that's fun. And on top of it, the actual tune has some like modulations to like D major in the middle of it. So that's also fun, I guess. No, it sounds amazing. It sounds amazing. It's just like challenging to grapple with something that you're not so familiar with, right? Nonetheless, it sounds so cool. Let's check out Sam Jones's approach to a great 8 in the D flat blues. So the very first part of a blues form, we've got D flat 7 for either 1 bar or 2 bars, depending on what is happening in with the other musicians. Nonetheless, he plays. One more time. Really cool that he's using this little chromatic movement with these jumps to make an interesting sort of melody of sorts. That is a sense of sort of being, he is resolving back to the D flat 7 at the end of that, right? So the whole thing sort of goes away and then comes back. One more time. Sort of returning home there. And here's another great 8. One more time. Very logical, very normal, so to speak, but when you consider it from the way we're looking at it through this prism, I think it's pretty hip. Going on to a new chorus, so we're at the beginning of another blues chorus here in D flat. He plays. I don't love that leap from the E flat to the A flat there necessarily, but I think it was purposeful in that he wanted to play the A flat on a beginning of a new 8 beat phrase. And that A flat is of course a strong chord tone of D flat, it's the 5. So my guess is he was just trying to get there, and it's a little bit of an awkward leap. Nonetheless, it's still an intentional phrase. He continues on by playing. One more time. One more time. Makes total sense, a total complete idea. I love it. So now let's look at yet another grade 8. Let's take a look at the famous Paul Chambers bass line on So What? One of my favorites for sure. This is, as you all know, or should know, or will know, that it's what we call a modal tune. Essentially, you have one color, one chord happening for long periods of time. In this particular tune, we sort of ascribe the chord D minor 7 or D Dorian sound, or all the white notes on the piano. All the white notes are available. So this is a great demonstration of this grade 8 concept. Check out what he plays in the first 2 measures. Yeah, man, take it, it's yours, steal it, use it, put it in different keys, it's yours. Here's the next 2. Now notice this is a B flat going to C, B flat going to A, this half step movement. And B flat is not a white note on the piano. However, he is, I think, making space so that he can arrive on a strong chord tone on the downbeat of this next 8 beat phrase. So these 2 measures again. And continuing, another long idea. There's a B flat again. So he can get to A on the downbeat for the next 8 beat phrase. And from there, root on the downbeat of the next big section of 8 measures. And totally logical, totally makes sense. Here's what he plays here, another 8 beat thing. Melody, beautiful, simple, awesome. Continuing. Another little variation, so good. Here is measure 13 in this part, the ending of the second A essentially. A little different there, he does play the B natural. Still great. And finishing out this A section, E flat minor 7 is the next color or sound for the bridge. So he leads perfectly with this 8 beat phrase. Right to the E flat, so good. You will find lots of examples of this anytime you study bass lines of the masters. It doesn't happen all the time, but you'll find examples very quickly if you check it out. Let's look at one more. Finally, I want to look at an Oscar Pettiford bass line on Just You, Just Me. And here we've got chords changing every bar. So the idea of continuing a 2-measure idea is a little bit trickier, as we talked about before. Nonetheless, I think it still applies here in many of the instances. But also I want you to notice, as I've sort of drawn in here, look at the visual aspect of the line. Like, just look at it just with your eyes, like what the shape of the notes are, and you'll find interesting shapes over these 8 beats, or these great 8. So here's some of Oscar Pettiford's great 8. I'll just play it straight through. Pretty great, man. It's very hip and very subtle, and sort of winds in and around itself in a way, and yet there is still this forward motion, and he's still sort of playing in a very functional way, so he's helping to define the sound of the chords, all these things we normally talk about. But considering them in the great 8 concept, there's some pretty neat stuff here. I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that you'll take this, as we talked about today, and use it yourself. Examine other bass lines from this perspective, and I feel like you're gonna really have some sort of eye-opening moments, especially when you try to apply it yourself over some chords that may be unexpected or may change very often. You're gonna find yourself having to really sort of deal with the changes, which is part of what we need to do to help to play this improvised music and play our role. Thanks for joining me today. I hope that it was helpful. And as always, subscribe, look for that PDF below. And always remember, straight ahead and strive for tone.